Hey everybody, Bloodmoon Bobby and Gabby here. This time I wanted to
Hello.
bring Gabby on to the Return of the Jedi review. So on my channel, I've been covering the original trilogy because I got so sick of spending years I enjoyed reviewing the sequel trilogy with you and Steven. I just got tired of me saying, "Oh, I've only seen the sequels. I'll watch the original someday." And someday never came until last December. So I'm really sick of when I first started, I had that tendency of saying, "Oh, I'll watch this someday," or "I heard this about that movie." So I'm glad I'm getting my feet, finally getting in. But I brought Gabby on today because you're much more experienced with Star Wars just in general than I am. And when you heard that I was gonna watch, so I watched A New Hope on my own. And when you heard I was gonna check out Empire Strikes Back, you were like, hey, let's check it out with Colin. And we decided to do the same with Return of the Jedi. So Gabby, would you like to give what's your take on the original trilogy?
I think my preference is strongly towards the original trilogy. I like the sequels. I enjoy them. Not so much the whole Kylo Ren story, but we've gone over why.
Hmm.
But Empire Strikes Back definitely my favorite. New Hope is a classic. Like I won't say it's my favorite just because bias. Like there's no real definitive reason why I prefer one over the other.
Hmm.
Uh, but they're both really good. And I think because I don't know if you mind me pointing out we were recording this, but when we were originally recording this, we just went off about like how despite being like quote unquote the weakest link, Return of the Jedi is still pretty darn good for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually tried doing a prior recording of this review, but I noticed Gabby pointed out I sounded like I was on helium because my microphone sample rate was off, so that's why we're here again today. But
It was quite entertaining, though, I have to say.
yeah, maybe someday I'll put that up as a bloopers video. What's up, everybody? Bloodman Bobby and Gabby here. But yeah, I kind of have that same mindset of Return of the Jedi. Not that it's bad; it's kind of like the lesser movie of a bunch of three really good ones. Yeah, it's not it's not like the Home Alone sequels where it's like the first two are great, and from what I've heard, the rest are disposable trash. You know,
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely. It's like the lesser of three, you know, like deities, giants, or whatever have you. Like, just because they're lesser doesn't mean they're that small or like they're weak or anything. It's just they're still up there. It's just that they're just comparably just maybe just a little toned down maybe or anything. But it's like it's still like we're still talking about a giant. We're still talking about you know a re- a relatively big deal.
yeah.
Because when these films were coming out, it was definitely a big deal, especially
Oh yes.
with the what am I looking for? The word, please come to me.
Blockbuster phenomena
Reputation. With the
reputation.
reputation that New Hope left. After that, it's just like the next two movies were just like we knew we were going in for something really good.
Hmm.
So, yeah, absolutely. Like, by no means is this like a bad film or even like a comically bad film to the point where
No,
it's like
definitely not.
so bad that you laugh at it. I mean, there may be parts, but the film itself is actually pretty quite good.
Hmm. Yeah, and I feel especially toward the end, it was really when it started to pay off. But we'll get into our problems with Return of the Jedi later on in this review. Let's actually talk about the stuff that we did like. So, what were your favorite aspects of the film, Gabby?
I think most of the moments going back to Tatooine. Um, Seeing Jabba's palace. And I definitely agree in that the story picked up a lot, like the later part of the film.
Hmm.
Right when, we're having that last face off. Um, I really like seeing the moon on Endor that
Mm-hmm.
we got to see. I'm not sure if they pointed out which moon it was because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was definitely a great setting, and meeting all the Ewoks and all that. It was just great.
Once we got to that war room scene where they're talking about, hey, we have to shut down this generator that's on the moon so we could attack Death Star 2.0, that was when the movie really started to pick up for me. And I really liked the environments of the moon itself, like mainly because it's kind of a very different looking place compared to what we've seen in the last two movies. It's this really big forest, and I really like the chase scene with the stormtroopers and the Ewoks themselves. I also really liked I liked a lot of the interactions with the Ewoks, like when Leia is trying to feed this one to convince the Ewok that hey, I'm friendly, I'm not gonna hurt you, and when C-3PO sort of becomes like this translator. Like it was mainly to like convince the Ewoks, hey, we are your, we're your friends, we're not your enemies, right?
Oh yeah, and then seeing him come to like recognize C3 for what he was, like starting off thinking that he was like a deity or something.
Yeah.
That part makes me laugh so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think another.
uh,
Oh, were you gonna say something?
mm-mm.
Okay, so I think another scene I liked the last appearance with Yoda. Something I really liked about how Luke has his struggles with the dark side is they show a lot of scenes in both like the ending of Empire and the middle of Return where he's going through that like sort of state of like sort of denial where he's like even asking Obi-Wan and Yoda, why didn't you tell me? Is Vader really my father? And so forth. So I think that aspect of the struggle is one that I like the most. It really just kind of shows like the weight of like what's going through Luke's mind.
Absolutely. I kind of like to say that as far as like the examples we've had of struggling uh, with the concepts of light versus dark, I think the best example we have is with Luke, just because it it makes for me at least a lot more sense to struggle with coming to terms with one's dark side and having to realize that that doesn't necessarily mean we have to give into it.
Yeah.
Just because like once you look at, oh, okay, I'm just gonna turn a completely 180 and I'm dark. It's really easy to mess that up. I mean, we have two characters to display that very well. But at least with Luke, it's like, okay, I have to make peace with this, but that
Yeah.
doesn't have to define me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I still aim for good, and I'm not perfect, but I can learn from mistakes, and I think that message is like really good. You
Yeah.
know, so I'm a big fan with that aspect of Luke's story.
Yeah, and I also like basically Luke's like plan to not defeat Vader, but to try to sway him like back over to the light side. Like his plan throughout the movies, basically, he's like, I could sense good for good in Vader, like basically for the Force, and I'm gonna try to persuade him to turn things around. I almost wonder if like that was inspiration for the series finale of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because remember how like Aang is like he really doesn't want to kill like Fire Lord Ozai because killing somebody like goes against like his morals and such. I almost wonder if like maybe the creators of Avatar got some inspiration from Star Wars, because I know they got inspiration from like Miyazaki movies and anime, but some of the plot points are like kind of remind me of things that I see in Star Wars.
Oh, definitely, and it fits really well with the idea of getting around uh, a protagonist aimed towards kids to promote pacifism.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, not to go off on a tangent here, but like that was a really big deal. Like, how are you going to manage this, especially with such a big such a big uh, villain, such a big, kind of like adversary, you
Yeah.
know? So I think that whole kind of like power dynamic
Mhm.
is really similar in those two examples, which is why I'm like, I think you make a really good point. I mean, yes, we do have the accident with Luke. Was it that he cut off Darth Vader's hand?
Yeah, which I
Yeah,
actually like that it shows that this battle it's not easy by any like stretch. Like we even see, Luke has to resort to the lightsaber fight and towards the end of the movie he's watching like his friends like, try to fight the Empire and even like Palpatine, the Emperor, was like, look at, your friends are out there fighting and they're dying and they're not going to survive this battle. So it's like they show that this is extremely difficult for Luke to a point where he even has to like do some lightsaber fights, and even like the point where Vader is like, maybe I could persuade your sister to go over to the dark side, and that pisses Luke off. So I also really liked how it shows that we know what Luke wants to do, but it's really like difficult to like sort of contain that sort of temptation of like you like resorting to anger and like fighting with
oh
his father.
yeah, especially when we were looking at this example because there's literally somebody egging him on.
Mm-hmm.
Emperor Palpatine's right there. It's like, you want to.
Yeah. Oh yes, yes. It's too bad he
It's like,
doesn't say.
yes, give in to your hate.
Mm-hmm. It's too bad he doesn't say "do it" in this
Oh, I
movie.
know, I know. It would have been perfect there too, but I mean, alas, we'll have to wait. Like, how many movies before we see that?
Yeah. Does that happen in? Was it Revenge of the Sith where he says "do it"?
I think it is. I think it is. I'm not going to bet my money on it just because I'm not that, familiar with the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And and I mean, I'm pretty sure that most of the points of why it's so hard for me to watch those is pretty clear.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but yeah, we'll get to the prequels.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's a whole other thing. Like we can go there for like I don't know how long.
yeah.
But yeah, just like having that guy, it's like I always say that when you're having that kind of like urge to do something, it's almost like you have that little voice in the back of your brain, like, yo, you want to do it, that's
Yeah.
and
So
and I
it's
think Emperor Palpatine is just a great personification of that.
yeah.
So it makes for one of those villains you just love to hate.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely give him props for that because that was just excellently executed.
Yeah, and I
Go
think
ahead.
like the one scene that really sums it up all is the scene you mentioned where Luke cuts off Vader's hand, and they do that, like edit where it's like, oh no, I did what my father did to me, and like that's when he was like, oh, I gotta cool it.
Oh yeah, and not to mention that it works for kind of like I don't know if I want to say payoff or because foreshadowing is definitely not the right word there. I don't think
It's
just
I
because
took it as a
like we're
parallel
looking back at
basically.
something that already happened,
Yeah,
but it just like those two moments connect so well
with that scene.
with that with that scene, just
Yeah.
because it's like it's easy to you put those two scenes together and it's like those two major parts of these two movies, where you can also see how the situation has flipped, like done in 180.
Yeah.
It shows the difference in response to it, right? Like we did not see any kind of sense of remorse or kind of regret or kind of the feeling to back down or anything when we saw that from Vader. He
Right.
might have been thinking it, but he certainly didn't like emote it or anything.
Yeah, no, he was still
Uh,
under the, join me, Luke, and I'll complete your
yeah.
training, that sort of
He's like,
thing.
"Oh, I just cut your hand. Hey, you should listen to me and come with me. I would." Ah. It's like, "Oh, gee, great. Yeah, I cut my hand off. That's really gonna make me want to go with you."
Yeah. The
Nice.
closest, I know, like, Vader was basically, don't make me destroy you, and that kind of thing, and that's probably the
Mhm.
closest where he gets to him, like, pulling back from, like, just going all out monster and axing his son.
Right, absolutely. But notice the difference in projecting that onto Luke while Luke owned it. And it's like, oh, I did that.
Yeah. So he stopped
It's
himself.
like the that's what I'm talking about, like the switch in position where it's like they're the two different ways that people can react to it. It's like it makes such a good point, and neither of them are necessarily like void of humanity necessarily, or kind of like completely evil.
Hmm.
Darth Vader is definitely painted that way, but even at that point we can kind of see that he doesn't want to be in the position that he is.
Right.
um so I think that makes the two situations really relatable, in that these are it can probably fit a lot of people's mentality, in which they're considering these two different reactions that they can have to a situation,
Yeah.
like the different responses that people can have. And it's moments like this that make the Star Wars films stand out so much. This is why I always say, like, once you have moments like that that really impact you in the way you think, this is going to be what sticks with you the most. And definitely having lots of moments like that, even in Return of the Jedi, which we were just saying, is probably the weakest of the three.
Hmm.
Like, still coming up to that level of, you know, connecting everything and, inviting critical thinking. It just shows how good the franchise is as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really a measure of like how good it is as a whole, and I think just the whole climax is like really well paced. It really feels like it gives time to showing like as much of the battle as they can, not just the exciting parts. Because I like how it starts off like we see like the battle up in space, but also we see Han and Leia on that moon in Endor trying to shut down the generator. And I like how it kind of shows that oh, they're here to save the day and it's not going super well. And I just like how it feels like they showed as much as they could without slowing the pace down.
Oh yeah, and this brings me to a point I think we got into quite a bit in our first take, about how they managed those different kind of like following the like different characters in different settings relatively around the same time was being handled so good.
Yeah.
Because usually when you have a lot going on, that's one of the issues that comes up, is that one area or two areas get a lot more attention than they should, and then one area or what have you kind of just gets ignored, and you're left wanting to explore it more.
Mhm.
And I mean, obviously, there's a lot more to delve into in this story, but the way they handled it in the film just gives you that satisfaction of knowing a good deal of what's going on. Like, you're not confused necessarily, or feeling like there's a part of the puzzle missing necessarily. Obviously, there's a lot more going on, because there's like how many people fighting in this battle,
Yeah.
but you can feel the majority of the story just laid out for you, like you're looking at a map and just going from one side to another and to another, which is really hard to nail. So
Yeah.
definitely props for that too.
Mhm. And I would also like to say that the ending itself was like it was like really satisfying, and getting to see Vader meet with Luke that one last time before he dies. I thought was really heartfelt. He was like, take off my mask. I want to see you like with my own eyes. And I just remember feeling it's like I knew that Vader was gonna die thanks to my pre-algebra teacher, I might add. But I just had this feeling of I know it's coming, but I want to see Luke save his dad.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think I was pretty aware that Darth Vader was going to die as well when I got to that part, but
Hmm.
I was not anticipating at all that there was going to be this exchange right before it. When I saw that, that just it hit me hard, man.
Yeah, and especially the part where Vader says, "You already saved me," by helping me turn around. Yeah, I got kind of
Ah,
misty-eyed watching that scene myself. And by the way, that was
yeah.
actually the the one who spoiled it for me. That was my pre-calc teacher, not my pre-algebra teacher. Bless him. But
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I still because I remember just because she was getting into Star Wars, and somebody told her Vader gets X, and she was like, "He dies," which that was news to me too. That's the thing about Star Wars. It's so integrated into pop culture nowadays. It's like unless you're really living under a rock and have don't interact with the outside world at all, you're gonna hear the of Luke, I am your father, or Vader
Luke,
dies.
such your feelings. You know it to be true.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I'm definitely there. I guess I've learned over time. I've gone from being under a rock to absorbing stuff through osmosis to now being the person with the, how would I say, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm finding it hard to find my words today. Like the obscure references and media where
Hmm.
people just kind of look at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I see.
So it's funny kind of looking back and seeing the progression where it's like, yeah, and then knowing Star Wars. Again, I knew a lot about Star Wars. I knew a lot of references and quotes from Star Wars. I didn't really properly watch Star Wars, especially the original trilogy, until I was in high school.
Yeah.
So that says a lot about how prominent it is. It's like it's in your face, like really in your face. Although I find that the idea of somebody who has not seen the films is not as uncommon than it would seem.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, like in fact, I think part of it might have to do with the fact that it's so prominent
Hmm.
in pop culture that you're kind of already given the information that you need to kind of like uh I'm sorry, I got distracted. The information you need to kind of like have conversations involving it. Obviously not at the same level as like you would be able to do if you had properly watched the film, but definitely like if somebody's making the reference, you know what context it's coming from. So yeah, no surprise that a lot of people get along without actually watching the films.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so too. So yeah, I also really enjoyed the ending of this movie, and I know that in the Disney Plus version, they changed when we see the Force Ghost for the last time. They actually changed Vader to Hayden Christensen, the guy who played him in the prequels. Which yeah,
Yeah, that okay. That is even an edit made before Disney Plus.
yeah, oh yeah, I didn't mean to say it's just Disney Plus. I know
Yeah,
that's been a
no,
thing since
when
like the
once
prequels
we
were out.
got to the part where the song sequence comes in for Jabba's palace, I was like, "Oh, we're watching this version."
Yeah. Just some things to keep in mind for people if they want to check it out on Disney Plus, which kind of leads us into our bad stuff, I guess, regarding Return.
That's going to be the big part for me. Like I loved watching Return of the Jedi for what it was for the most part. I don't remember really being upset with anything more besides particularly that scene being shoehorned in. Other than that, I'm like, great.
Yeah, it's funny though. I actually showed my sister Penny that the the musical scene in Java's Palace, and I remember she got kind of agitated watching it,
That's
like just
me. I
showing.
got
Yeah.
agitated
Hmm.
too. I was just like, Usually I would find this hilarious. Usually I would just be like dancing along with it. In
Hmm.
fact, I consider the song itself a bit of an earworm.
Yeah.
But do I like it as part of the film? No. No. I don't know. This could have been like an outtake or something. Or used for some other piece. I don't know. Something more fitting.
Yeah, would you
But
say it's like a case of George Lucas like fixing something that doesn't need fixing?
absolutely, absolutely. I remember it being a matter of, like, I remember him like putting it as a matter. It was like, oh, the technology that I wanted to use at the time wasn't available, and now it is. So now I must find my way to express myself better with this technology to make the story that I intended. I'm like, you're telling me you intended this originally? I mean, it's fine, but really?
Yeah, would you say that it just kind of kills the tone of the opening of the film?
Oh, definitely. That's why I say shoehorned in, because apart from that scene, what is going on is like that you can sense the tension. And then this thing comes in and it's like it grabs a giant knife and just cuts it in half. It's
Hmm.
like, I mean, not that, there aren't places to kind of like ease off tension, but way to kill the vibe, man.
Yeah, I see what. Yeah,
It's
I
like a huge vibe kill. Like, definitely wrong place, wrong time.
yeah. I mean, I don't know why. For me, it's not that I like the scene. It's just when it turned up, I was like, oh, that was a thing. Okay, so
Yeah, literally, it's like, oh, that's a thing. It's like, what purpose does it serve? I don't know. It's a
yeah.
thing. It does the thing.
I
Like,
mean, yeah. I mean, the worst thing I could say, I'm just kind of indifferent on it. It's just the worst thing I could say is that you got this sort of tense scene going on with characters trying to rescue Han and getting captured, and then it's like you have this weird dancing. So I don't like get angry when it comes on, but I sort of get that feeling of a okay, that was cool. Can we get back to the story?
yeah, and I think for me, the fact that I knew where it came from kind of fuels my anger a little more. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had, like how I mentioned, this was George Lucas's attempt to improve the film. Keyword improve, which it did not do.
Right.
Which is why, at least for me, it's just kind of like, why? This is why it agitates me. Like, if it were already like that, if it was like just made like that, I probably wouldn't have cared as much. Like, this is how it came out. This is how it was. Who knows what kind of thing happened where they couldn't work on it as well as they could have. Let's say there was some issue and they kind of had to scrabble to put everything back together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, okay, yeah, stuff happens while you're making a movie. Obviously, not everything's going to be perfect, but this was something they had proper time and no rush to implement.
Yeah.
Like they could have waited how long to perfect that scene and or work it out or come up with a different concept. It's like, yeah, just talking about it more is just I can feel like I can feel like my blood pressure just kind of slightly going up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I see what you
why?
mean. So, but yeah, but as for I think most of my problems with Return of the Jedi mainly come from that first act. The second and third are just fine, but the first one I thought was just really slow. Now, I mentioned in my New Hope review that I was like, wow, New Hope is actually slower paced than I imagined. And I talked to our buddy Steven about this, and he said, well, consider the time period that it was released. And I like the slower pacing in The New Hope because it really gave time for us to explore Luke and Han, and that, it's not a, okay, let's just get to the story. It's like, no, let's have some, like, character moments that show, what Luke was up to before he got pulled into this battle. And we also get to see Han, in fact, in A New Hope, the Disney Plus version, and I guess the special edition, we see, Han interacting with Jabba in that version, and it was like, okay, so we see that, he's had his, like, shady run-ins, and this, like, confrontation with Jabba has basically been, like, built up in the last couple of movies, but I just thought that the first act was just kind of needlessly slow paced. Like, I get they want to like show, I think it's that they want to show as much as they could with like C3PO, R2D2, and Leia trying to step in, but I was just kind of like, admittedly, I even kind of like yawned when I watched the movie because I was like, you could pick up the pacing a bit, and I think that I kind of felt the transition, like, getting us into Return and coming out of Empire just felt a little on the sloppy side. Like, even times where I had to, like, kind of ask myself, wait, what happened? But,
Yeah.
yeah, but you pointed out that in Empire, I was trying to remember, there was that scene where Vader was like, we'll have Jabba deal with Frozen Han, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. The idea was that, I mean, originally, like how you pointed out that we didn't get the whole thing with Jabba until, like, I don't remember when, but, this is going to be the big reveal, kind of, I guess. So, I think that might be a little bit why the pacing was slow. Uh, I'm going to admit my memory about this whole kind of thing is a little bit foggy, and I didn't quite figure anything particular about it, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't have like a definitive like, oh, this is why it's that way. But I definitely think, yeah, they could have bumped up the pace if they had chosen to. Oddly enough, and this is coming from me, and you guys know I have a big issue with slow pacing.
Yeah.
I don't get through that very easily, and both in New Hope and Return of the Jedi, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't even noticed the slow pacing until you pointed out, so I'm like, oh wow, really, it is. It is slow paced, isn't it? I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm just that entertained by what's going on around in the scene or what have you, but I don't know, like, I didn't have a problem with it. It definitely could be improved, like, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard to explain how I didn't manage to kind of like get annoyed or bored with the slow pacing, especially since I particularly have a hard time with that. So now I'm here thinking, like, how did that work?
Yeah. I think like slower pacing works best if it's either to like absorb people into the atmosphere of a movie like in Wall-E, or if it's used to build tension like in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, especially that scene. Do you remember the scene where Brad Pitt goes to meet, that really shady guy? And it's like really like tense and just, it's just really kind of nerve-wracking seeing where it goes. It's like, "Oh my God, is something like scary going to happen?" And that kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite scenes from that movie, apart from the climax. In that it really, if there's one thing that, not to go on a Tarantino rant, but I really liked how that movie builds up tension. Like, I thought that was just, great, So,
Oh, yeah.
but for Return, I felt that it could have sped things up more. That's not to say that everything in the first act was bad. Like, once Luke came in and he gets sent down that trapdoor and like is faced with that really creepy ass creature. What was it called?
Oh. Oh gosh, I still don't know the name.
Yeah, sorry.
It
Somebody
wasn't
could
the
let us.
Sarlacc, right? Because the Sarlacc was the beaked plant tremor looking thing that Boba Fett gets eaten up from.
Yeah.
Uh, oh man, give me a moment and we'll put this to rest. Like I'm going to find the name of this thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I came with like my iPhone, like just in case I had to like look up something that I don't know the name
Mhm.
of.
Okay, what does Luke fight in Jabba's palace? Oh, it's called the Rancor.
Rancor.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
Rancor. Oh my gosh, that is that makes me feel better now that I know that name.
Yeah, that's good.
uh,
So, but yeah, I like that, that fight scene that happens with the Rancor. And even like the scene where we see that it looks like Luke and Han are going to get fed to, what was
oh
it
yeah,
again?
the Sarlacc.
The Sarlacc,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's like boom, surprise. Nope, it was Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm. Who gets thrown off and like eaten.
I'm sorry. I just I remember when I first watched it, I didn't know a lot about Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that scene. It's like, really? This is a character that a lot of people are making a big deal of? I'm like, this is how he's introduced? What?
Yeah, well, technically he first showed up in Empire, like in the middle of the film.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Mm-hmm.
true. But we didn't really get a sense of who he was or kind of like his personality or anything until we kind of saw him in Jabba's palace. So this is why it's like, okay, so we get like one look at him in Empire, and then this is how they really kind of like properly introduce him to us. Like,
Yeah, unless you
look,
count.
surprise! Hey, look, you see this character that we're starting to build up? Oops, nope, he got eaten by the Sarlacc. Come back in 1,000 years, and maybe we'll tell you more.
Yeah, so unless you count like his appearance in that godforsaken Star Wars holiday special, which I reviewed a
What
couple years ago.
forsaken Star Wars Christmas special? I don't remember any Christmas special.
Oh no! Oh, sorry, that doesn't exist. No, 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 no. I don't know. Star holiday special. What's that?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know. Because I know it's kind of like a, shall we say, touchy subject with like the Star Wars cast if it like gets brought up in interviews.
That's hilarious, though. I haven't watched it, but if I do, I probably will be referencing it a lot just to get at people because
Yeah.
it's
Honestly, to go off topic a little bit, I'm really curious. Like, I remember during Disney's Investors Day, they were like, a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. And
Oh no!
and James Gunn was like I actually he said something like, oh, I actually like the Star Wars holiday special. So I feel like it's gonna be one of those like intentionally like kind of like weird like kind of specials. Like it may be like the Star Wars holiday special, but like more enjoyably kind of fun, like enjoyably
Like
kind of
usually, I find
cringe.
like when stuff is like that, once you give it like a twist on it being like self-aware, I think that bumps it up quite a
Mm-hmm.
lot. If you're bad, but you're also self-aware, it adds like an enjoyability to the bit to the awkwardness that it's just you can't look away, and you actually genuinely enjoy watching them screw up because it's like, what joke are they gonna make now?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I haven't been super caught up on Guardians of the Galaxy. I've seen the first film, haven't seen the second, but I might even like pop over to the Disney Plus special just to see if like, is it gonna be something like the Star Wars special, just more self-aware of how strange it is.
I mean, I can look at it in the sense of looking at, I think particularly Star Lord, uh, Rocket, and Groot possibly seeing their interactions and thinking of some kind of thing like that. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be hilarious. Oh,
Hmm.
excuse me.
Do they
And hmm?
do they ever show this is so weird. Did they ever show Groot's family or anything?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Oh gosh.
Because I'm wondering, because
Are,
one
are
of the
you are you thinking about what I'm thinking about with the whole the Wookie family? Are we gonna go there? Oh
Yeah,
God.
it's like because I know one of the criticisms of the holiday special is like the Wookiees talking to each other, but they go on, and we have no idea what they're saying to each other. So it's like, what if it's just a family where it's like, I am Groot, I am Groot, I am Groot.
Oh my God. Don't give them ideas.
Oops, my bad. But
Oh my
yeah,
God, that
anyway,
would
we're
be
going off the
hilarious
cuff.
though.
So, but
Maybe one joke like that. Maybe one joke like that might bring out a chuckle. Because also, I'm the kind of person who's really hard to get annoyed with a joke unless it's like just mean.
mm-hmm,
Like I can laugh at nearly any joke,
mm-hmm.
so whether it's like a poop joke or like some sort of like witty commentary on some historic event, like if I know the context, I'll be like, you
Hmm.
know. So I don't know. I'll have to see. Who knows? Maybe I watch the Star Wars special and I end up liking it.
It's on YouTube.
Oh
If you care.
God.
But yeah, but
I will admit I would be scared though. I kind of do feel a little scared just talking about it.
mm-hmm. I see what you mean. But anyway, so but yeah, I'm trying to think of what else to say because like Again, most of my issues with Return of the Jedi was just with the third act. Third act, no, I really like the third act. No, the first act's like a pacing, but that was about it.
I think the only other thing is it was also one of probably the film where they kind of delved in a little bit more to the whole political banter thing. Not as much necessarily as like any of the prequels, but you know, you kind of get a little tiny idea of like, oh, we're gonna have the whole talk within the Empire about, oh, we're evil people, we're going to do this evil thing and all of these politics and this is why we're doing it and motives and blah, 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 and oh, they're never gonna know our plan. And it's like, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, at least in this movie, at least to me, it was like understandable. I heard in
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
prequels.
like that. I paint it like that, but this is much more a problem in the prequels
Mm-hmm.
than it really is in Return of the Jedi. Like they kind of sort of go there, but it's like, oh, okay, I get what you're talking about. It.
Yeah, because like I heard in the prequels, it's like really long-winded and hard to follow.
I mean, I've told this story before. I think in first my my first memory watching Star Wars was sneaking into a viewing of Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here getting ready for some sweet, awesome lightsaber fights because I'm like, what, 6, 7 years old?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, I want to see some lightsaber fights. We go in there, we last in there 10 minutes. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, 10 minutes doesn't sound too long, but if you know how time moves in a film, which I'm guessing you do since, you know, we're here talking about film, hopefully you pretty much have a good idea of that.
Mm-hmm.
It is so long. We got out after the 10 minutes, and while we were walking out, they were still talking about stuff. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here like, I'm bored. I was like fidgeting and I almost fell asleep on my chair. I'm like, when's the action going to start? You
Yeah.
know, it was bad. It was bad.
I see. Yeah, so but yeah, I'm gonna have to like watch the prequels like just to like see for myself. I figured that since I've already seen the originals, even though like people have said, you know, the prequels are bad, not that there's no good things in them at all, but I've already heard people say they're, you know, really like awkward and, what does Anakin say about I hate sand, it's rough and coarse and gets everywhere?
I don't know. Don't. I think that sums up like it's mainly those two things that I actually have a problem with because I get it. A lot of the information that you get and a lot of the backstory that they managed to put into the prequels is actually quite cool.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing the awkwardness that is angsty Anakin Skywalker,
Emo Anakin.
I don't even know if I want to call him emo because it's like he's just edgy. He's just edgy. And not even the good edgy. He's like that guy who's like, oh, you know, I'm not understood and stuff. Leave me alone in my corner so I can stay misunderstood and stuff. Anakin, what's your problem? I'm misunderstood and stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe you can try to talk about your feelings, bruh.
I see what you
You
mean.
know, and it's just like character development, please.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I don't know. Not to mention that then you have the whole kind of like thing where I understand the appeal of these. I seriously do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but just seeing like the trend of like, you know, people just go like, oh my god, he's so hot, he's so hot. And it's like, I want to turn him into a but I'm like, that's, I don't know if you can change that, dude. Like, that's personality. That's a lack of personality. Like, what are you going to grab a flash drive and stick it in his brain and just kind of upload it into it or something. Like, what are you gonna do? And same thing with Kylo Ren. Although Kylo Ren, at least towards the end, I liked how they tried to kind of like redeem him and stuff. I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then they turned it around and it's like, oh, fan service, and I'm like, really, this is the reason why you decided to redeem him? Like, oh my god. Then you have the whole political banter thing with the prequels specifically, going back on that being my major problem, and those two things like just made it really hard for me to watch because those two contribute to the pacing of the film. And like I said, the slow pacings that are used in New Hope and Return of the Jedi never really gave me much of a problem. The slow pacing in the prequels, oh lordy, can you feel it? And that just, I can't. Maybe Phantom Menace has less of an issue with that. I managed to watch Phantom Menace, but after that, I'm like, I can't. I'm literally staring at the screen 5 minutes in, and all of a sudden I'm going to be like, oh, hey, I have a hand.
Wow. Dang.
It's like, wait, what? You're doing a bad job about talking about your feelings to your crush? Oh, okay, that's cool. Here, I'm just gonna keep looking at my hand.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah. So when we get to the prequels, like, I'll see. Yeah, I don't know, cause like I just have this like mindset of like I don't just want to see like oh the movies everybody loves. I feel like to really get a sense of like what people are talking about, I feel like I kind of have to watch the prequels for myself, because I don't like being that person that says I heard blah 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 about this movie.
Oh yeah, like definitely it's a lot better if you have the experience to properly point out what the issues are.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I think hate watching is definitely a big thing, just because even if you know that it's bad, you're still going to learn something about it, whether or not it's just this is how not to make a film or how not to write a script, or just like why doesn't this work or something, or why do people say what they do about this film. It definitely has its purpose. And I think some people might even argue that that may be what leads to the popularity of certain things. I mean, I've heard that about Twilight. It's like, oh, you say you hate Twilight, but you know a lot about Twilight, so what does that really say? And it's like, darn.
Yeah.
You really do have a point.
Yep. So, but
yeah,
we'll get around to the prequels at some point. But anyway, as far as Return of the Jedi goes, excuse me, even though that like kind of a lot as some people, like a lot of people that consider Return of the Jedi being like the sort of lesser of the original trilogy, again, that's kind of like the lesser movie of a really good bunch. So I thought it was a good movie, especially the middle of the film is really when things start to really pick up for me, and I'm glad that I got to see it at last.
Oh yeah, I'm glad. Like it definitely is a good watch to add to one's repertoire. Like it adds to the cultural, to one's ability to understand the cultural significance of it in pop culture.
Yeah.
I don't know if I just like reiterated something there, but like the importance it has in pop culture definitely stands out a lot more once you've watched the films. Not that you can't appreciate them without it, but it definitely does kind of like bump up your experience with the whole thing. It's like, oh, this is what everyone's talking about. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I definitely got that too as well. So, but yeah, so that's been our review of Return of the Jedi. We'll get to the prequels soon enough. Yay. But I'm gonna I'll withhold judgment until like I see them. It's just, what I hear from other people.
I mean, get yourself a nice bowl of popcorn, get yourself a nice drink,
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure you'll be all right.
Yeah. So too. So yeah, so that's been our review. Everybody else, let us know your thoughts on Return of the Jedi as well as the Star Wars original trilogy down below in the comments. We really enjoy hearing what you have to say. So until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby and Gabby here, and we'll see you all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh.
Did you intend to do that? You okay?
Woo! Oh my god, that was unexpected. Okay, I'm back.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel to see more of my videos and ring the bell to be notified about my latest uploads. Don't forget to follow me on social media for my latest opinions and video updates. I hope to see you next time.